So Kevin,
hmm
welcome.
Thank you.
So tell me about, so you're a lobbyist in Wyoming.
Yes.
What has it taken for you to get here? And what kind of challenges have you faced to become a lobbyist in Wyoming? And really, why have you became a lobbyist?
So it wasn't that much of a challenge to become a lobbyist. The biggest challenge is the dedication, the amount of time that you're willing to give to support your community or to support your state. Like I said in our previous interview, you can go online to the Secretary of State's office and register there, give $7, and you're in. And the reason why I want to be a lobbyist, or the reason why I am a lobbyist, is because it's, as of right now, at my age and at our current age, you can't really run for office and you can't really have a strong platform or anything and be the head honcho, so to speak. So the lobbyist is that open door to actually have your voice heard and to be able to be listened to by those who have that position or that higher position in office.
And for our viewers who may have not read the article, can you
Yes.
tell us what you were lobbying for?
So, like I said, there's different phases of which I want to lobbyist. The first phase that I want to lobby for is that of the education sector, and more precisely in the education sector, is I want to lobby for scholarships. There's hundreds and thousands of scholarships out there for so many students to have the ability to get, but they don't know where to get it or they don't know where to search for them. So if the state could find a website or promote a website or a program or have a booklet of all these scholarships that are capable of receiving, then these students can actually apply for them and they can actually feel safe when they apply for them because they know it's reliable rather than doing it on their own time and Googling college scholarships, because there's a difference between a loan and a scholarship. A loan is where, you're given a certain amount of money, but you have to give some money back. And and the scholarship is where you're just given that money because you either turned in an essay or you have proven to that organization that you met their standards to receive this money, and you will prove time and time again to that organization that you are going to keep those standards high for yourself. So I just want to make it easier for students so they have less of a financial burden going into college and more of an academic success. Yeah.
Right? And how are you going to accomplish this?
Well, pretty simple, you just go to Cheyenne and you go to certain committee meetings. And by certain, I mean, you can't go to the Committee of Appropriations. You got to go to the Education Committee first because those individuals are specialized or they know more about education than some other senators and other committees. You talk to them, you throw the idea towards them, and if the idea is good enough, some of them can actually be passionate enough to write a piece of legislation, whether it's a resolution or a bill, and have it go through the floor.
Right? And as a lobbyist, what do you see the major roadblock to prevent this from happening?
One of the major roadblocks that I've seen currently is that when you're throwing this idea out, at first people are very, very strong-headed, thinking that, this is just college students asking for money. College students saying, oh, I want it to be more free and everything. And then thus comes the argument of socialism. But if they actually understand the fact of which the student still has to work for that scholarship, they still have to write an essay or they still have to bring their GPA up. It's still a work effort brought on by the students, and that this money isn't necessarily free, it is earned by that student, and that they still, it's still all the efforts on the students to receive that money, and also how many scholarships they apply for depends on how much money they actually have. So it's more, so the biggest roadblock right now is that fact right there of how some people might take this further than what it originally is.
Okay, so in our previous interview, we discussed if a student couldn't find a
Mhm.
scholarship after this is implemented,
Mhm.
after the government already has these lists in place,
Mhm.
how do you, so if they can't find a scholarship, how are they going to combat the rising tuition and housing costs? And can you elaborate on what they can do with the government, either putting in more money to the education system
Mhm.
or what the student should do there?
So basically, the way it's set up right now, and I'm just going to use the high school as an example.
Mm-hmm.
The high school level is there's a lot of school districts across Wyoming, and they're given a block grant from the government. And it's up to the school district to distribute that money the way that they wish would seem fit for their school district. And so the problem there is not necessarily the government as a whole, it's the school district itself
Mm-hmm.
to actually uphold that value, to get students ready to understand that, yes, if you're still, out of luck with not receiving all the money that you wish to receive, then there's other motives that you can go by this, and it's not necessarily allocating more money to the budget, but also it's a moral aspect or a duty aspect brought on by the schools, like the guidance counselors. Rather than turning your paper to a counselor and having them look at the classes that you're going to take and them giving you the stamp of approval, sit down and have the guidance counselor actually talk to the students about finance, saying, are you having troubles, where are you having troubles at, and then have them recommend what they can do, what the next step. Because right now students are more worried about their academics than they are about their finances, because some students either get money from their parents and their parents pay for the scholarship or pay for their dorms and everything. But my main effort is to make that student independent, financially independent. We're in college now. We got to become adults. We're going to school to take that step into adulthood. And one of those steps is finances. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for guidance. Hence the name guidance counselor, to say, hey, I would look into this, I would ask for this, I would, help you with this to actually balance your budget.
Mm-hmm. So speaking about independence, some
Mm-hmm.
naysayers against what you're lobbying for would say that creating a list of scholarships would kind of limit the drive, limit the independence from these students going out there and finding them on their own and achieving it that way. What do you say in defense against that? How do you hold your stance?
So what I say against that is how. How is that not independence right there? The students themselves make that decision by free will to take up the obligation to meet their own needs. That right there, to me, is the very form and very definition of independence. Because they still have the choice to not follow this. They still have the choice to not take up this opportunity that's ahead of themselves and just do what they do currently. But if they choose to do this, that is completely an independent decision. No one's going to force them to do it. No one's going to, hold them at gunpoint and say, you better do this. It's all up to them. They're just going to recommend it to them, and they're the final sayers of it.
Right. And then from your perspective, do you see a need for something like this to do you see a need for more scholarships to be available for students and it to be in a common place, like a list provided by the government to say these are the scholarships you can apply for?
Yeah, I do see it as an absolute need because, a personal story, not from me, but a friend of mine, they made the comment that this semester is the semester that they had to buy more books than they ever had to buy, and it's out of their own pocket, and imagine having a scholarship or having enough scholarship money to actually be able to not worry about buying books or an unnecessary book for your class, because this individual has the scholarships, has the Hathaway and everything, but that only pays for tuition, and for some reason in our high schools and in our primary schools of education, they do not value the form of scholarships. You know, most people say, well, you have to be smart or you have to be intelligent to receive all these scholarships. Well, that's not necessarily true, because there's scholarships out there for, you know, anything. If you're a skateboarder, then you can get a skateboarding scholarship. If you're a red-haired individual, then there's a red-haired scholarship. If you have ancestors that fought in the Civil War, there's a scholarship for that. You know, it's all up to you and how much money you want and how much effort you're willing to put into putting your name into all these scholarships to be able to receive that money and someday put it in your pocket and save it for necessary times, you know.
Okay, and then if students, so let's say that this gets passed, the government does give us a list of scholarships students could apply for.
Yeah.
Do you really see that being the end of it, or would you like to see more growth towards students and kind of their needs?
I feel as if it might be a natural growth rather than a forceful growth, you know, and it's not completely all up to the government to uphold this. It's all completely up to the schools themselves to promote it. Because right now the government does have the ability to enforce Hathaway. Mm-hmm. But it all ends up on the school's ability to enforce it and to promote it and to say, I would really recommend this program for you, recommend the Hathaway because it's a good scholarship. So even though the government is the one who's writing this or putting this list out and passing it up to the schools, it's up to the schools themselves to promote it. It's up to the schools to keep it growing, to keep it running, you know. And so all I have to say to that is it's up to the students and the school individually to see a higher goal than what I'm presenting. Yes, I do think it's I think it's the people's obligation as much as it's the government's obligation. And I know we like to define the government as a different sector than that of the people, but the government is run by the people and the government is the people. And with that faction is the private scholarships that are already out there for private majors are absolutely wonderful. I mean, you can go on UW website and you can find loads and loads of them. But there's other ones out there, nationwide out there, that are completely overlooked. And I think they have the same value as the private UW scholarships that are offered for these private majors that should be looked at as much as those certain scholarships, because that adds more cost or not more cost, but adds more money in your education than just getting 1 or 2 UW scholarships. Well, it is stated in the state constitution that UW has to be the lowest nationwide, or lowest as possible. So we really cannot control the increased tuition cost nationwide with other colleges. So right now, if we see nationwide tuition rise up, we're going to see UW find that loophole of saying we got to rise ours a little, but we're still the lowest. And so I don't think that's the issue right there. I think the issue is the lack of responsibility. And I'm not blaming anyone for this, even though it might sound like I am. But we have the capability, we have the power in our hands to make a change in our own lives. All we need to do is find that open door and take that step into that open door. And I really do believe that this policy is just the first start of opening that door. So in the support of me is I would ask them to listen rather than talk. I would ask them to not put their money where their mouth is. You know, the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, the pen is mightier than the amount of money that you have. You know, and I would just say, let's just listen to each other. Let's respect one another. I'm not going to demand for them to respect me right off the bat, but I want to earn their respect. So they're willing to listen to me. They're willing to understand my place at my current time, at my current age, as much as I understand their place, their time, and their representation. Well, it's simple, you know? Take action. Be sane. Because if you don't take action, you're going to find yourself being insane. You know, it's easy to critique certain situations that we see come arise in our nation and in our state politics. But if you take the necessary actions that you know you can take them. Have your voice be heard. Because the only way you're going to get your voice be heard is through your ability. Thomas Paine once wrote that we have it in our hands to begin the world again. That means, fundamentally, that you have it in your hands to begin your world again, to begin this state again, and to begin this nation once more.